Oh, good morning. Wow, what a great thing. What is a great thing? We woke up. Isn't that great? We woke up. Hopefully you're dealing with good health. And if you're having challenges and your health is not so good, or perhaps one of your loved ones, I just want you to know that we are all holding the space for you. We are all holding the space from you. And we can draw power and strength from each other. We can draw power and strength from each other. I was laughing as I rang the bell because this is actually my second recording here today, and the first one was really good. At least I felt it was good, and it was flowing very, very well. And the topic that I want to touch base on is de-escalation and the importance of developing a de-escalation process, a template that is so present to you that you act without thinking when something needs to be de-escalated. You can't wait to think. Thought is always behind the moment. So, when you are dealing with a situation that truly needs de-escalation, you have to be able to act in that moment. You have to act in your own best interest. Doesn't that make sense? You can't have someone who's filled with hatred for you. And I just want to say, I want to say to you personally that I'm sorry for how things are going. I want to tell you that I have great compassion for you because I know that many of us and many of you are really suffering. I'm speaking to you who feels that suffering. And the truth is that we're all suffering. But I understand something, and this process that got going for me so many, many years ago, that I understand something. For me, it was working to try to balance the intensity of hatred, the intensity of the hatred of people who felt that I should not be present. Mainly racial, but there were other elements as well, where people came to me and said, "Your presence is ruining this place." It's really hard. It's really hard. It's kind of like, having someone come to you in the morning and go, "Are you okay?" And I go, "Well, yeah, I feel great." And then you go somewhere else, another place, and the person goes, can I get you something?" And then you go to a third place, and another person says, "Oh, I'm sorry, you don't feel good, huh?" Now you thought you were feeling great, but all of a sudden you start to question yourself, like, maybe I don't feel good. You know? What I'm suggesting is, if the person who comes around the corner or you're on the highway and they flip you off, the person who is committed to contraction, to getting away from you, to telling you you are bad and you shouldn't be here, you don't want to give that person a string and control in your life. You don't want to give them the power to make major decisions in your life. That's my suggestion. I don't think that seems unreasonable. You have to act in your own best interests. We see so many people who vote against their own best interests because they're caught up in a concept that was packaged for them, a package that was based in fear. When you identify with your fear as your essential self, then you will be willing to do things that you would not be willing to do otherwise. And I would suggest that's not the best space to be making decisions. I would suggest that the best space for you to be making decisions is when you are calm and present and able to look at things without a jaundiced eye, like a mirror, to be able to just see what is. And then you can go from there to make the best choices. It's like a scientist who has something they want to prove is true, and then they try to prove what is true, that the thing that they want. That is not the real and true scientific model. So, in this third of the 40 days, I'm asking you to breathe and open up your awareness and not get trapped in tunnel vision with the people who are disturbing you the most. Don't be a deer in the headlights. I'm not suggesting that there's some not really, 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 really uncool things happening. And it have been happening, well, for a long time. It's not new. This is not new. It's just that a bandit got pulled off of an infected scab, and suddenly we see the infection coming up. It wasn't there before then. I have so much compassion for people. And remember, my values are kindness, compassion, joy, and positive indifference. And I just want to tell you, I have so much compassion for people. It just breaks my heart to see the suffering that's going on. But it doesn't have to be that way. This is extremely painful, but we do not have to suffer over it. And the difference between the suffering and experiencing the pain makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. One of the things I like to share with people is what I call fear masquerading as faith. Fear masquerading as faith, where someone tells you they are filled with faith, but they are just absolutely terrified. And they're doing everything based on that fear. Everything based on that fear, so much so that they're willing to let go of the tenets of their very own religion that they may espouse as being the very center of their life. But maybe the fear is a little bit more important. And when you're acting in that way, when you have someone who comes, who hates you, and again, one of the easiest things in the world is to hate someone who hates you, and suddenly you come into their world. Yeah, you are evil. That's not the way to make it work out. You're not going to end hate by hating more. You're not going to end hate by hating more than the other people hate. It's just not going to work. You might get into a civil war that way, but that's not how it's going to work. And I'm not talking about building the fear of civil war. You see, we are geniuses of manufacturing fear for ourselves. And we want to consume that which terrifies us. It's like having someone who hates you and deciding that you want to take a spoonful of rat poison from them and eat it for them because they dislike you so much. You would never do that. Why would you take in the toxicity? You have to firewall your consciousness. You have to develop a strategy. And that is what this 40-day process is about. The first week is mainly to just kind of get a lay of the land and to really make sure you have a tight plan for the whole trip. Right? If you're going to go a long way away, you want to have a good sense of how you're going and where you need to go. You want to have a sense of the map that, maybe you're using GPS. It tells you to turn right here and cross the bridge. And the bridge is not there. You're just going to just drive? No. Right? Maps are wonderful tools, but they're conceptual. It's not supposed to take the place of you really paying attention. This is your time. And this is your time to become your best self. And I just want to congratulate you on this incredible opportunity. Isn't that what you always wanted, was to become your best self? Well, that's what the world is asking of you now. Not just asking of you, but telling you that we need. We need you as an individual to step up as though you are the crucial consciousness in humanity. That if you lost yourself to delusion, that we all be lost in delusion. That's a level of intensity that you have to come with this. You have to understand that it's not about being perfect. If you take out a searing hot rock from a molten fire and you set it to the side, if you don't think that rock has absorbed the heat, you will have a serious situation on your hands. So it's not reasonable to expect people to come from entrenched and sick situations in which people have been trying to brainwash them since birth, and you think, why aren't you emotionally healthy? It's just not reasonable. It's understandable if someone is infected by something when people are infected all around them, and we are all infected, not by this particular virus, but the virus of fracturing and bias. We're all caught in it, and we all want to stimulate it. It's like a child rolling down a hill in a go-kart that was going too fast. So the reason I was laughing again at the beginning of this video is because I had done one right before this and it went really well. And I was like, that's going good. And I was talking about that. I was talking about the fact that if you are not more committed to who you really are, then this person is committed to who they think they are, because they're really not that. They just think they're that. Okay? If you're not more committed to your authenticity than they are committed to their delusion, you will shift into delusion. You will become irrational. And we don't need that. We got enough people on the job. Right? So anyway, I was there and I was talking about this. If you are not more committed to your path and this person is to their perceived path, you will shift into their perceived world. You will be living in a world of make-believe with them. So as I'm saying that, and I was talking about that, I was talking about being shifted into that, and then I swore, because even talking about it, I was shifted into the demonization of it. It's undoubtedly true that you are charged. And that charge is here for a purpose. It's just not the one that we have misconstrued it to mean. The charge is here to get you to dedicate yourself to what you really believe. In your heart, in your deepest heart. When you become truly present, I want to explain what is there. There is a calm. Even in the midst of scary situations, when you're really present, things slow down and you are able to feel the space in between. When you are truly present, you have a sense of sort of just a general affection for yourself. When you're truly present, you have just a general sense of hopefulness. And if a glass drops from the table, you may even catch it. You're not going to think, I'm going to catch the glass before it hits the floor. This is what happens with presence. And this is what happens with firewalling your consciousness. And we want to have an arching strategy to firewall our consciousness. Doesn't that make sense? Don't you have a financial strategy? Isn't it an arc? So we want to be aware of that. And we're going to come across many levels. Now remember, we're on the 40-day practice. The 40 days is a lifetime. It is a model, a symbol of a lifetime. It's a whole life. And during this life, this 40-day life, we're going to go with a gentle progression and peak at the end. It's not about doing a boot camp where you are just drilling yourself. It's about learning how to be present and learning how to let the flow come through you and learning how to make life look easy. And so one of the great elements, and in many ways I would consider the greatest element, is, and this comes from Advaita Vedanta, and what I consider to be my root teacher, and gradually I will tell you about my mountain of teachers. But my root teacher I consider to be Nisargadatta Maharaj. And he talked about the importance of presence, the importance of being, the importance of presence, I am. Isn't that amazing? Isn't it amazing how I am is important in all the world? Isn't it amazing how people say it to you all day long, even more than they talk about politics? I am. It's the subject of every sentence. And yet it's so powerful, like living next to the mountains and being so majestic, but then getting caught up in the minutiae of life and you don't even see them. I am is who we are. I am. You have to be in order to have a belief. So in coming back to the original part of the equation of de-escalation, you have to start from the beginning. I am. I am. So choose to make de-escalation one of the major points of focus of your practice. If you are on a highway and someone cuts you off dangerously and you give them an offensive gesture, well, what ends up happening now is that you've come into their view of reality and you might have a road rage incident. That's what's happening. You have to be so good and so powerful that you will not shift into rage. Rage is an out of control fire. And it's not the best way to make decisions. I am. By the way, what we also again want to understand is life is happening for us and not to us, even in the worst of times. That's the approach that we have to take. When we take that approach, even in the worst of times, something good will come out of it. It's much easier to be grounded and calm if you don't think we're going to hell in a handbasket. So you have to diffuse that bomb. I am. So be aware of it. Begin to have it in the background. And what it will do is it will begin to activate your shield, because you will be in contact with home and you won't get lost into a place that is not your home. I am is the essence of who you are. It just also happens to be the essence of who everyone else is. Even the people who you are growing to truly, truly dislike and are on the border of hating. Just because someone doesn't use the word hate doesn't mean that they're not hating. I really want to be a support to people because this is a language that I speak. It's much easier to speak a language as a native learner, as the language that was spoken from the moment of your birth and all the way through your life. And for me, that language was hatred. It was something that people regularly wanted to express to me, that they hated that I was present. And so what ends up happening is that I began to absorb that. And I began to have the experience of hating my own self. We have to understand what hatred does, to both to the person who hates and to the person that allows the other person to have a string on them. Don't give someone a string on your choices who hate you. When you say I am and you breathe into it, you have space. Stress is being too close to something. When you are able to have space, and I am is an infinite well of space. It's the balance between the inner and the outer world. The inner world is I am, and it doesn't change. And the outer world, including your thoughts and emotions, are in fluctuation. They are, the subject says this, I am going to work. But you have to understand that work is not the subject. So breathe into that. Have it going in the back of your mind. Start making it a regular practice. This is one of the essential pillars of developing grounded practice. Being in I am, and not the thing that you are focused on, making it the priority. This is when the actor who thinks that he is Macbeth, he's that method actor, and he goes home. Or we've heard crazy things that method actors have done. You become a method actor. So be with that phrase, I am, especially when an unexpected conflict pops up. As soon as it pops up, breathe, slow your breathing down, and say in the back of your mind, I am. I am is the most subtle thing. It's not a thing. I am is the most subtle experience. It is so subtle that it doesn't shake you. It doesn't need to. It's infinite. I am is the subterranean connection between all of us. So step this up. I just want to say to you quickly here, because I am running out. I want to say to you that this is an incredible moment, and you will either become more or less yourself. Be in the presence of that which is pure, I am. If you do this, if you make this part of your life flow, if when that person flips you off on the highway, you breathe and say, I am, and just say it, I am. This is the process of being able to deal with crisis, because you have a safe place, a place that doesn't change. The term crisis, and again, it's important to really understand what the real underpinnings of words are. The word crisis really meant change, but we are so afraid of change that we, on a deep subterranean level, equate it with death. I am. So in this phrase, I am, keep it, have it be with you. It is your path to your way home. It is your home. It is you. And if you have that with you in the time that this greatest challenge of your life, you will have access to a wealth of power and innovation beyond your conception. And if you do this, at the very end of your life, you will pass out of this life in peace. Be that now to be that when you pass out of this life. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please check out my blog on drakepoe.com, POWE.com. I will be putting a piece up this evening. Every morning and every evening. Let's do this thing together. We can shift this reality. I am is the great firewall because I am is the essence of unconditional love. It doesn't hope that you're going to become president, and it doesn't turn its back on you if you have a drug addiction. It is unconditional love, and unconditional love is the ultimate firewall. Namaste.